beautiful people, my name is Amanda Zitto, and if you are new here, I normally make motorcycle travel vlogs. Can't really do that right now, but I also make a lot of tip videos and general encouragement for you to get out and do the thing when it is safe to do so. Okay, I've made a cozy little nest. We're back in the garage, and today we're going to talk about my favorite motorcycle books. Something that you guys may not know about me is that I have a little bit of an obsession with books. I'm definitely not as bad as some, but I'm definitely worse than others. But I'm here to share the benefits of that obsession with all of you and share some of my favorite motorcycle books. This is an excellent time to be diving into some really good books and living through somebody else's journey. I feel like books are a really special medium for experiencing somebody else's story, and in some cases can make you feel more like you're living their experiences because it's all happening inside of your head. I will be linking all the books that I talk about today down in the description. Full disclosure, most of those links are going to be affiliate links, so if you buy any of the books through those links, I will get a very small cutback back from Amazon. It's an excellent way to support me while also supporting really awesome authors that are writers like us. Okay, this list is in no particular order, but I have to start with Jupiter's Travels by Ted Simon. It is a classic and in my opinion should be mandatory reading for any adventure motorcyclist or just motorcyclists in general. This book is amazing. A lot of fans of Long Way Round will know that Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman's journey was inspired by Ted Simon, by this book. It is arguably one of the most iconic adventure motorcycle stories that has inspired so many other people, not just Ewan and Charlie, to get off their butt and follow in Ted's shoes and travel around the world. With the support of a newspaper at the beginning of his trip, he left London in 1973 on a 500cc Triumph Tiger. Doesn't look like my Tiger, by the way. It took him 4 years, but he rode all the way around the world. 78,000 miles, 45 countries. A lot of soul searching happens in this book, and it's pretty incredible. I think this is what encompasses the ideal adventure for a lot of us, in the sense there was no support team. If he broke down, he had to fix his bike himself. There's no internet. There was no cell phones. He did all of this on his own without a good map, without GPS. This book. Holy grail. Moving on. While we're talking about Ted Simon, I also need to include Dreaming of Jupiter, which is kind of the reprisal to Jupiter's Travels. About 30 years later, when Ted was 69, he retraced his around-the-world trip, this time on a BMW. It's really interesting to read the comparisons that Ted Simon makes about the places that he revisits and what they were like on his first trip versus what they were like on his second trip, but also the inclusion of technology and how that changes his experience of a round-the-world trip. It's just, if you have read Jupiter's Travels and you haven't read this one, I highly encourage you do so. It does get a lot of mixed reviews, so maybe don't go in with your expectations super high, but I really enjoyed it as a person who was a fan of the first book. The next book that I'm going to highly encourage that you read is The Man Who Would Stop at Nothing by Melissa Holbrook Pearson. This book is like a wonderful tangle of like the history of the Iron Butt Association, an experience of the Iron Butt Rally, this woman's first attempt at an Iron Butt, but also the story of John Ryan, who has broken a ton of long-distance motorcycling records. It's a fascinating book, and it'll definitely suck you in if you have any inkling of doing any kind of long-distance riding. And even if you don't, it'll make you want to by the time that you're done. I don't have a physical copy of this book because I listened to it on Audible. Getting legs cramps now. Oh, and we're not even halfway through the list. Well, you can see more of my blanket but that's okay. I hope that you're cuddled up and warm and hanging out with me. So I feel like we're just friends hanging out, talking about books. I also don't have a physical copy of this book either because I listened to the audiobook version, which is excellent, by the way. Elspeth was the first British woman to ride a motorcycle around the world. I feel like this book should be required reading for any female motorcyclist. I identified with her so many times throughout the course of her journey, just like experiencing the sexism of certain people because she's a woman on a bike, but also a lot of the help that she received because she was a woman alone on a motorcycle. It's an incredible book, and she develops so much throughout the story. She did the trip totally unsupported. She tried to reach out to major brands to get backing or any kind of support for her trip, and they just laughed at her. Nobody believed that she could do it, and she did it anyway. And she saved the money working blue-collar jobs. She is an incredible inspiration of determination and fortitude. She is my hero. Like, we're still talking about an adventure that happened before the internet, before there was email, you know, before you could reach out on social media to find somebody to help you. And she went through countries where, like, half of them you couldn't find a decent map to get around, you know. I think there's something very special about reading other people's adventures that happened before the 90s, because without the internet and without GPS and all of these things that we have nowadays to make our journeys easier, there's something so much more authentic isn't the right word, but that's about as close as I'm going to get to it. Something very authentic about that kind of journey, where if something breaks, if something happens, you only have yourself to rely on. There is no backups. And I think that's something that we are still trying to emulate today on our own adventures, but we always have some other kind of backup or something like that, which I think is good in one sense, because it means that if you get into a life-threatening situation, there is somebody to call, and there is a way to do that. But reading somebody's adventure that had to go through that with no backup is very empowering, even as a reader. Now I'm going on a tangent. Sorry. Okay, we can't talk about motorcycle books without talking about Sam Manicom and his Everyday and Adventure series, which starts with Into Africa. I will, of course, have all the links to all of the books in the series in order for you down in my description. If you post on social media, like, what are your favorite motorcycle books? Guaranteed there's going to be 3, 4, or 5 comments that say anything written by Sam Manicom. And there is a reason. He's very eloquent. For context, all of these books in the series document Sam's journey around the world, and by the end of it, he also has a partner with him, which I really enjoyed. But the point of it being is that Sam has a very descriptive style that really makes you feel like you're there in the moment, and I really enjoyed all of his inclusions of food. I think that's something that a lot of motorcycle riders miss out on, is describing the food in the place and how that affects your experience as a whole of the new places that you're visiting. And Sam does an excellent job of including that. I'm so glad that he chose to write separate books for his whole around the world journey instead of trying to smush it all into one book. I think that the length of the series really does the journey justice, especially so you're not missing out on small moments that probably would have been left out if you had to encapsulate a whole journey into just one book. The next book on my list is One More Day Everywhere by GLEN, HEGGSTAD, I think is how you say his name. Admittedly, it has been a while since the last time that I read this book. It is available on Audible though, so you can listen to it while you're doing other things. If you haven't noticed the theme yet, I like around the world travel novels. This is another one. This one is set in the early 2000s, and it documents Glen's trip around the world. The next book on my list is called Blind Curves by Linda CRILL. This one's bringing it a little bit closer to home for us in the US. This one is a story of a woman in her late 50s after she's been widowed, and she commits herself to doing this 2,500-mile trip on a motorcycle, and she has to learn to ride in 30 days. The story is really fun. It's very personal. She grows a lot, even though the scope of the journey is a lot smaller than a round the world trip. It's very honest, and she doesn't pull any punches about the uncomfortable parts about learning to ride a motorcycle, and I really enjoyed it. I highly encourage you to read it. I also listened to the audiobook version of this book. Next on my list is Graham Field. That's not the title of the book, that's the author. I think he has 3 books now, 2 available on Audible right now. One is In Search of Greener Grass. Graham Field is a little bit different than your normal polished motorcycle travel novel. He takes riding with a little bit of a different approach. It feels more raw, and you're genuinely experiencing his emotions as he's traveling. He also takes a very interesting approach to the budget part of budget motorcycle traveling. I went from the UK to Mongolia in the first book, In Search of Greener Grass, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't think that I would, but I did. I highly encourage you to listen to the 2 books that are available on Audible because Graham read them himself. So it's really cool to actually hear him telling you about his journey. It's really neat. Next on my list is Touching the World by CATHY BIRCHALL and Bernard Smith. This one is just very interesting. I went into the book with a lot of curiosity because it's a story of CATHY, who was a blind woman, becoming the first blind woman to go around the world on a motorcycle. Of course, Bernard is the one who was piloting the motorcycle and CATHY was on the back. But listening to the way that she describes the world from a very different perspective from my own was just really fascinating. I highly encourage you to read it. It's also available on Audible. Next up, we have Ghost Rider by Neil Peart. I know that a lot of people have read this, but I wanted to include it anyway for anybody who may not have heard about this book. It's a story of Neil grieving the loss of his wife and his daughter. And I think there's something very powerful and empowering as a reader to experience somebody else's transformation through grief and the way that they process it. And it can help us process things that we may not be wanting to process right now. And since we all can't hop on a bike right now to process our grief, the next best thing is to live through it through Neil. On a lighter note, my next book on my list is To Dakar and Back. This one is by Lawrence Hocking and Will DeClercq. And if you have ever had any kind of curiosity about the Dakar, riding in the Dakar, or even just rally races in general, this is an incredible book going over the process of preparing for the Dakar and then actually riding in the Dakar. And it definitely gave me a larger appreciation for those who participate in the moto and Dakar, or even just like solo self-supported rally racing in general. I think it's very fascinating. Okay, I swear that we're getting to the end now. Stick with me here. I want to talk about Motorcycles I've Loved by Lily Brooks-Dalton. I had the pleasure of actually getting to meet Lily at the first year of Dreamroll. She was one of the very few people that I got up the courage to actually talk to in person, and I was very relieved to know that she was feeling just as shy as I was, and such a large group of women that we did not know. And we had a wonderful conversation about feeling like outsiders. And she mentioned to me while we were talking that she had just finished writing this book. And I was super intrigued and I bought it when I got home. If you've ever read Wild by Charles Strayed, the experience of kind of like feeling like you're reading somebody's diary is the way that I felt when I was reading this book. The way that Lily is in the beginning of the book and the way she is at the end is almost two different people. It's really incredible the way that you can watch her kind of come into herself using motorcycles kind of as a tool to empower herself. It's just a really good book. The next book on my list is Lois on the Loose by Lois Pryce. This book has been on my to-read list for a very long time. I kept putting it off because it's not available in Audible version. And then I figured out that you can get Alexa to read Kindle books to you, even if it's just on your phone. You don't have to have an actual Alexa device to get her to read books to you. And this has totally changed everything. It's meant that I got to read a lot more books this year that I probably wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. Lois on the Loose is the story of Lois Pryce's first journey from Alaska to South America on a dual sport. And a ton of people told her she couldn't do it. The thing about Lois Pryce is that she has an incredible sense of humor. And she pulls no punches about telling you about every single time something bad happens and how dumb she feels. And she's very good at conveying her inner monologue to you, so you kind of feel like you're in on it. Her sense of humor is great. All right, last on my list for today is Two Up and Overloaded by Tim Notier. I believe this is his second book. He also has a prequel to this one out that I haven't read yet. This one just came out a few months ago, I think. This book covers him and his wife's journey, quitting their jobs and starting from Chicago and going to Panama on the beginning of their trip around the world. This one feels very much like I'm reading somebody else's travel journal. Can literally feel Tim's frustration at the KTM dealer and like the anxiety of the possibility of going down on a motorcycle with your partner on the back. And by the end of it, I was looking for more pages because I didn't believe that it was the end. And of course it's not. They're still on their journey. And so I'm really looking forward to the next book in the series. They do have blogs and videos up on their YouTube, and it's really neat to go back and watch their YouTube videos after reading this and like getting to see like the video clips of the experiences that he was talking about. And his videos are more like little travel montages than like travel diaries the way that I do them. But if you read this book and then watch some of his YouTube videos, I think that gives them a lot more context and depth. All right, guys, if you've made it to the end of this video, I applaud you. You are awesome. I am full on expecting this video to be a little bit on the longer side. And I hope that I have gotten to introduce you to at least a couple books that you may not have known about already. Just a reminder that links to all of those books are going to be down in the description. I do get a little bit of a kickback from Amazon if you do purchase any of those books, even the Kindle version. I want to give a huge, huge shout out to all of my supporters on Patreon right now. You guys are the reason that I make videos. You're the reason that these are still happening right now when all that I want to do is lay in my bed. I hope that you are safe and warm and that you have some place to hunker down during all of the crazy. And in the meantime, guys, I will see you later. Question for my end screen crew, because you guys are amazing, what is your favorite motorcycle book? I'm going to add a caveat onto this. If you say Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, you have to add a different book onto that. Everybody who rides a motorcycle knows about Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, so pick something else. I'll see you guys later.